Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, while in this truth from who drew well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit. Now I'm entitled this one. We are not ignorant of Satan's devices. Because the majority of the world, especially our people, the Israelites, which today comprise of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, 2/3 of our people, the wicked of our people, they're asleep. They don't know that we're in the last days. They don't know that Babylon the Great America is about to collapse. And ultimately, they don't know, that the mass implementation of the MOTB is about to be pushed out throughout the four corners of the earth. Because they see all these psyops that Esau Edom is throwing in their faces from the Epstein files, about to be released. You had the shootout in D.C. a couple days ago. And ultimately, when Esau Edom does this, that's to distract the world to what's really going on, which is this digital infrastructure being established in front of everybody's faces. So one day, all these people that are so accustomed to their daily routines is all going to change at a blink of an eye. They're going to wake up to their bank accounts wiped out. They're going to wake up with empty grocery stores. They're going to run to the grocery stores and find out they're all been looted. This is all going to lead to martial law, which is going to be that order out of chaos. And what is Esau Edom going to do? He's going to offer peace and safety, so society can go back to normal, and that's going to be him pushing that charagma, that MOTB, that microsia. It's in 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So we're not ignorant of what Satan, the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, which is the so-called white man, which is true biblical identity, is Esau Edom. Because that's another device that Esau Edom, so-called white man, has used all these years, is disguising himself as the Israelites, as the Judah, the southern kingdom over there, proclaiming to be the true people, which we know they're not. But it's to the point where they've fooled the whole world, but now the whole world is waking up to who this devil is. That's why the only choice he has left is just to come down with that great sword, to collapse society, to make all these people bow to his system, because Esau Edom can no longer hide of who he is. He can no longer hide under white. He can no longer hide under that J word, the tiny caps, the tiny hats. So now he's going to be like, okay, I'm done. I'm done hiding my horns. That's why it's to the point where he's just showing his horns to all these people. He's telling the masses straight up, I'm about to come down with that great wrath, and if you don't want to get down with the program, then you're going to get laid down. And that's what it's going to come to. Majority of these people, they're about to lose their lives because they're not aware of what times we're in. So majority of the world, they're going to get caught off guard. This is Sirach chapter 5 and verse 15. Be not ignorant of anything, a great matter or small. So majority of our people, they're ignorant. A lot of them are willfully, ignorant, like it says in 2 Peter. And they don't care. They always look at it as like, man, I don't care about the geopolitics. That don't affect me. But now it's affecting you, because now you had the whole government shut down. It's just, people claim that it is not going to affect them, but here, all these airlines were shutting down because they don't have enough workers. And it just trickles down. And majority of these people, they think because it's not in their front doorstep, then they don't care. But very soon, when Esau Edom collapses this system, majority of people are going to get caught off guard, because they've always had that mindset, if I look the other way, if I don't pay attention to it, then it's not going to happen. But it's to the point where reality is hitting everybody in the face. Inflation at an all-time high, groceries, prices rising, rent, So these people are feeling it, but yet, they're still in that dead state, in that asleep state. But ultimately, it's Yahweh Bashim Yahushai who put them in that state. Especially our people, the 2/3, which are in complete darkness, not knowing what the hell is going on and what's about to happen. Because Esau, Edom, he's about to come down with that great wrath, because his time of ruling upon the planet Earth is just about up. This is Proverbs 29 and verse 18, or verse 18, where there is no vision, the people perish, and that's what's about to happen. These 2/3 Jakes, they don't know the prophecies because they're not measuring the times diligently through the scriptures, filtering out why things are happening around the world. Ultimately, it's Yahweh Bashim Yahushai's will that's playing out around the world. Yeah, it may look like, Esau, Edom is behind, all these NWO agendas, but really is Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, because the Lord is about to make known who his elect are and who are the non-elect, which are those who are going to bow to the system, take the MOTB, take the Charagma. So majority of our people, they're just going to have to get put to death. It says, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. So doing what Yahweh Bashim Yahushai commanded us to do, to go out there and warn our people, to blow that trumpet, to tell them, that the enemy's about to come down with that great wrath, telling them to not take the Charagma, the MOTB, because what the consequences are. But majority of our people, they're not doing that. Even these Israelites that claim to be in the truth, telling you that heathens can make it and there's not going to be any Jacob's trouble, and then these Christian churches just completely void of understanding, claiming that they're already saved. But ultimately, we're going to have to be kept in that day, because majority of these people, they don't know how bad it's going to get. This is Ezekiel 21 and verse 8. It says, again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, verse 9, son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord, say a sword is sharpened and also furbished. And that's what we're telling our people. The hopeful elect, and then those who are just destined to get marked, who aren't going to take heed to the trumpet. But we still got to go out there and warn our people. Go out there and tell the nations, this is what you have coming. Telling them straight up, you have slavery coming. You don't have salvation coming, unlike these other Israelite camps that are teaching false doctrine. We're straight up telling the nations, you're going to go into slavery. And then we're telling the wicked of our people, repent, or lest you're going to be destroyed. It says, verse 10, it is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter, should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree. So we're telling our people, hey, the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, he's about to come down with that great wrath. Right now it's not the time for, the holiday spirit, Thanksgiving, Christmas. But yet, majority of Jake is in that spirit of mirth. That's why Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is just going to have to allow Esau, Edom, to put him to death, because they refuse to repent. They don't want to hearken unto Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. They don't want to hearken unto his messengers, the prophets. So the Lord is just going to have to put majority of our people to death by the sword, famine. A lot of them are going to take the Charagma, the MOTB, and they're going to have to suffer that second death. But ultimately, that's because majority of our people don't know what the hell is going on. But really, it's the Lord that's behind it all. He put that spirit of deep sleep on him because he doesn't want majority of Jake to get it. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 1. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. Yeah, that's right. The elect, they don't have to be told, hey, or, we're reminded, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, constantly day in and day out. But we're not in that sense that, oh, shit, I didn't know the MOTB was coming. I didn't know that, all hell's about to break loose. I didn't know that World War III is basically here. I didn't know that Jacob's trouble is right around the corner. No, the elect, they don't have to be told these things in the sense that, do you know this is coming? But no, it's a daily reminder, a refresher that, knowing what times we're in. But, the rest of our people, they're asleep. Even if we tell them, this is coming, Esau Edom's about to do a number on our people, they don't care. They're just like, man, they just look the other way and turn on Netflix and be consumed with the bread and circus, but not the elect. Verse 2, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. And that's how it's going to happen, because majority of our people, they're not waiting for Yahweh Shai. They're not expecting the second coming. You even have Christians, these anti-Hamashiachs that they know that, they say Christ, the second coming of Christ is near. The majority of our people, they're not aware because, they're not occupied in prophecy. They're not measuring the times diligently. That's why you're going to have a lot of our people and these Edomites and, these Christians, they're going to get deceived by that Project Blue Bling. They're going to, oh shit, JC's back. But, ultimately we know there's going to be a false flag because we know what prophecies have to play out first before, Yahweh Shai returns. He gave us the signs to look out for, like it says in Matthew chapter 24. Wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, signs in the sky. He didn't give us the exact time, but he gave us signs to watch out for. But only the elect are going to be looking out for those signs and then tied up with the scriptures and be like, okay, Yahweh Shai's second coming is almost here. He didn't give us the exact date, but he gave us a timeline to look out for. Verse 3, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they should not escape. And that's what's going to happen. Majority of these people, our people, they're in that spirit of mirth, in that spirit of deep sleep, not caring what the hell's going on. So ultimately, majority of our people, they're just going to have to get put to death because that's how it's going to hit. Right now they're in that jolly old spirit. It's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, it's New Year's. So the last thing our people are worried about is all hell breaking loose. Destruction, doom and gloom. It says, verse 4, but ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day shall overtake you as a thief. And that's right, the elect, they're not in darkness because ultimately they have the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Shai dwelling in them. They have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. They know the prophecies to look out for. Verse 5, you are all children of the light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. Yeah, and that's right. The elect, they're not going to be in the spirit of being asleep, being in darkness, being void of what's going on around the world. That's the 2/3 of our people. And because you even have these Edomites, that know what the hell's going on, but they don't know that, America is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. They still have that hope that somehow America is going to bounce back, is going to rise from the ashes, but that's not the case because what's next is the kingdom of heaven being established upon the planet Earth. And all these heathen nations, they're going to go into slavery. They're not going to partake in the inheritance of Israel. It says, verse 6, therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. And that's what we're doing through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Shai, is watching, blowing that trumpet to the flock, to the congregation, to the sheep. Not unlike these wicked Israelite camps, that they're not blowing the trumpet at all. These Christian, so-called Christian churches, they're not blowing the trumpet at all. So they're really in that drunken state. Verse 7, for they that sleep in the night, and they that be drinking are drunken in the night. And that's majority of our people. Drunken with the cares of the world, with the Babylonian wine, with the American dream. And shit, they're going to remain drunk until they get hit by those missiles. It says, verse 8, but let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet the hope of salvation. And that's our hope. Knowing that salvation is nigh because of this mass implementation of the MOTB that's right around the corner. Verse 9, for Yahweh Bashim Shai had not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. So the elect, they're already predestined to receive salvation from the foundations of the earth. But that's ultimately because Yahweh Bashim Shai gave them the spirit to understand what times they're in. Unlike the 2/3 of our people, completely void of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, completely void of the fear of the Lord. So when all these things come upon them suddenly, the mass implementation of the MOTB, World War III, all hell breaking loose. They're going to be like, what the hell? Where did this come from? But ultimately, we know that they're going to get hit like that because Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai didn't give them the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to know what times that we're in. But that's pretty much the point. Prayers is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem HaKakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who are in this truth from whom do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom.